So joining me now is John Rosenthal. He's running for State House, Texas 135. Wow, you guys have a lot of districts in Texas. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, John, your opponent, the incumbent, who's a Republican, amuses me because he cut out the middleman. Normally, the payday lenders contribute to Republicans, and then the Republicans do whatever they want. But in his case, he is the payday lender, right?
Oh yes, and he helped to architect the rules under which they operate that release them from the sort of legalities that normal lenders have.
So he's an innovator, is what you're telling me. Okay, I got it.
Yes.
So John, but explain that a little bit more, because what did he innovate, and what laws did that help to change?
Well, it's the way that they've classified the type of lending, and so they don't qualify under the banking rules. I think the important thing is there's a tremendous amount of corruption for payday lending in Texas, and actually the finance committee is chaired by another payday lender. So,
oh Jesus. Okay.
So we're actually working on drafting a little piece of legislation to regulate them, and partly because it really needs to be done, and partly to poke at the guy.
Yeah. So look, in the old days, we used to have laws limiting how high an interest you could charge, and if you charged above that, you'd be called a loan shark, and it would be illegal. So we still have some of those laws, but they cranked up the rate, legally allowable rate, so much that it grinds people, and it's what loan sharks used to charge. So,
oh yeah, I would say these folks charge even higher than you might imagine. So, my opponent, it's my understanding that they're charging between 700% and 800% per year.
Oh.
There are some payday lenders in Texas that charge over 1,000, approaching 2,000% per year for a 2-week loan.
Jesus Christ! All right, I want people to understand the context. Donald Trump went bankrupt 6 times. Okay, he's a terrible businessman, we get it. But one of the times he went bankrupt, he was running a casino, Taj Mahal. Now, the house always wins. It's really hard to go bankrupt if you're running a casino, but Trump pulled it off. The reason that he went bankrupt is because his interest rate on the debt that he used to buy it and build it was simply too high. That interest rate was 14%. 14% is too high, even if you print money like a casino does.
Right.
So whereas your opponent changed the laws so they could charge 800% interest.
Or more.
So this is why we need to both get money out of politics and get progressive candidates in. So John, what makes you a progressive?
That's a great question. So I've never been in politics before. I'm trained as a mechanical engineer. I've worked in the oil and gas industry for over 20 years. And after this election was alarming enough, but once the new administration took hold last January, I found their actions so alarming that I couldn't just be sitting on the sidelines anymore. And we started an indivisible group here in Texas District 7. So I'm sure you're aware, Texas Congressional District 7 is one of the hottest races in the country. Mm-hmm. We're looking to unseat another long-term GOP Trump supporting guy here. And so I really became active, I would say, around February of last year. And we have staged a number of candidate forums for these progressive candidates in Texas District 7. And there's actually a tremendous progressive movement in Texas and in Houston in particular. And so as the ground game started to develop and some of these other groups got together, some of my friends in the progressive movement urged me to run because I have very strong progressive values.
So we're going to talk about those values in 1 second, but I want to give everybody your links. Okay. RosenthalForUsAll.com. That's the number 4. That's a fun website. I like that. Obviously, all the links will be down below if you're watching later on YouTube or on Facebook. And John, let's dive into your issues. So what are the issues that animate you, and what would you fight for?
Well, I think the top issue for me is the way that education is being run in the state of Texas. So our public education system has been robbed, starting with the administration of Governor Rick Perry and continuing now with our lieutenant governor, who's it's hard not to use horrendous language with this guy, but he is a crazy freaking right red guy, and his name is Dan Patrick, and they have robbed our education system, and our property taxes go up, and even though we're the second richest state in the union, we're either number 49 or 50 at the bottom of what we spend per student in this state. So it would be great. It'd be a great system if the finance model worked well or the governance model worked well. So all we have to do is change both of those things.
Yeah, and so that's redistribution of wealth, but it goes to the top instead of the bottom.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, if you're one of the richest states, but you spend almost no money on educating your kids, it's because it's not your kids. The people in power are sending their kids to private schools, and so defunding the public schools is not an accident. They're doing it on purpose. And so
absolutely.
If you don't put progressives in office, you're never gonna reverse it. Now look, by the way, before we go on, I want everybody to know, Trump only won this district by 2 points. So this is an eminently winnable race, really, really winnable. So if you're anywhere in John's district, that's Texas 135, make sure that you volunteer for him, donate for him. Donations could be anywhere, and help him win it back from this guy who pioneered 800% interest rates. So,
oh gosh.
Yeah, so the public education system, that's a local issue that's very important. You're gonna fight on that, I got it. How about some of the larger national issues?
Well, for national issues, of course, Texas refused the Medicare expansion, and that has increased cost for insurance for all of us here. And it should be no secret that not only did our medical costs, our insurance costs skyrocket after that. After this last legislative session, they've redefined how our retired teachers' pensions and medical coverage works. And so we are seeing teachers go from $200, $300 a month monthly premiums to over $1,000 a month. It takes away everything that they have to live on just to insure themselves. So the insurance thing is a huge deal. I'm a big proponent of single payer systems, and I'm also a big proponent of accepting the Medicare expansion here in the meantime, so we can bring more money into the system and lower costs for everybody in Texas.
So one more issue about Texas infrastructure, because I know in Texas, those same right wingers that you were talking about, including Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, they tried to put in tolls and privatize the roads, and people didn't like that. You can culturally, a lot of them might be conservative, but they're like, wait, I have to pay for these roads the rest of my life and deal with this giant pain in the ass, and so they had to retract it. So what's your infrastructure proposals?
Well, the big ticket items for us in our part of the city, we are very close to the area that was flooded out by Harvey. So there was some intermittent flooding in my district. It wasn't hit as hard as some of the other areas, but we're very close to those large reservoirs that were flowing over. And there have been proposals at the state level, at the national level, and also in our locality, in the Harris County level, to get some funding to shore up those reservoirs, maybe work on the third reservoir that's been planned, and also improve the release paths from those reservoirs so that you don't flood, 100,000 homes every time you have a major rain event here. So that's a very big deal. And then there's the highway construction, which has just been a hot button issue locally that I don't know if a national audience would get into that, but there's a highway in particular that runs right through the center of our district. It's been under construction for 10 years, and we would like to address that both at those construction projects are controlled by the Texas Department of Transportation. So we want to address it through that agency.
All right, and John, last thing, I know the primaries are March 6th, but you don't have a primary, right? You're running unopposed?
I'm running unopposed. So those who want to help us unseat a GOP Republican, long-term incumbent, guy's had the seat since 1994 and has been absolutely corrupt, absolute piece of work there. So if you want to help us make headway in the state legislature of Texas, just donate to campaigns like mine. There are some very competitive districts around here, but I'm in a very competitive district. We've got a bunch of volunteers from the Indivisible movement, also from Swing Texas Left, Battleground Texas, I think we've got 16 people who have already committed to block walk in our little district of 110,000 voters.
Right.
So,
all right. RosenthalForUsAll.com, clever website. I like it. Check out the links down below. John, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
thank you very much.